Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Benjamin Peters, first to check in tonight on a Friday night. Thank you for that thumbs up. If you're watching on replay, please leave a message. And tonight, this Friday night, we're going to be talking about a few different subjects because I put out a post for the members to tell us what they would like to hear about tonight. And as it turns out, let's see, we got 4 different responses, and each of the 4 were different titles or subjects. So we're going to touch on a few of those and maybe save the others for next week. What are we looking at right here? Hi, Jeff. Thanks for joining. Glad you could join us tonight. These are the latest and the greatest Lucipinnis. Yes, I just collected these, was it day before yesterday? Another batch. I had been checking the trap for probably every day for 2 weeks, and then bam, there they are. Good evening, Shady Grady, Sandy, and Sandy. I'm so sorry. Last week I got you confused with a different Sandy, but now I got it straight. So these are Lucipinnis. These are the latest batch. They've just hatched. In fact, they've only had 1 feeding. So what I do with these to have the best success is I put them in a smaller container, one of the jars. So I put the eggs and the fry in a jar of this size. This is like, I don't know, a pint size. It's almost a half of a quart. Maybe it's a liter, I don't know. It's less than a liter, probably. But what I've done is I'll put a decaying leaf in the bottom. And the reason I put the leaf in is because these catfish like to hide in the dark. And if I were to lift that leaf, we would see how many are actually in here. But there were quite a few fungus eggs in there. Let me see if I can lift. No. I pushed the wrong button. Gotta be careful. This new phone, buttons are different locations as before. So I'm going to grab my tweezers. I think every fish room needs a set of tweezers, and this is very handy. So like what I'll do is I can just pick this up. These things are great. They just hang there, and I drop it off, and I'm doing all this one-handed because it's so easy. Now let's see what we got there. Under the leaf, see if we can see any babies. Oh yeah. There they are. These things are fun to raise, fun to have, fun to watch. Oh, that leaf has got a lot. Oh, there we go. Now that's where they're all hiding out. See, they need to have that little cave, as it were. Catfish are like that. They like the darkness. But, you know, if they were just hidden all the time, it wouldn't be easy for me to monitor them. But instead of just having a bear tank, what I do is, first 2 days, since they hatch, I will give them a small amount of microworms. Microworms will settle to the bottom, and they'll be like on the bottom of the glass, and those little catfish will start eating microworms. But by the time they reached about 3 days old on microworms, I then start introducing little bits of baby brine shrimp. And then as soon as I keep doing that each day, just a little bit, not a lot of, don't inundate them, don't do too much, but just start putting little bits until you see. Now they have like clear bodies. I don't know if you can really see the coloration of these things, but they're just like little glass marbles with a tail on it. Well, a bead, I should say, right? Not really a marble. And when you see the belly start to fill up and get orange, you know they're eating the baby brine shrimp. And there's Sandy Diamond. So welcome, both Sandys. And glad to have you all aboard. And we have Rye Guy Outdoors. Welcome, everybody. Now, we're going to touch a little bit about the Lucipinnis tonight. There is something I'd like to mention, because it was a request for tonight to talk about them and breeding them. I also wanted to talk about some Daphnia and the projects we have with the Daphnia Moina, or Moina. Now, let's just get into the Lucipinnis. Oh, and before we get going, somebody else was also, one of our members tells me that they got 10 of these little lovely dudes. These are luminatus, Pseudomugil. And got 10 of them. That's a good number. I wouldn't get less than 10 if you're expecting to breed some. These little guys in this container, I don't know if the camera can pick them up out of focus. Here we go. Back off, back off, back off. Okay, there. You can almost see right at the surface, you see those little specks moving around? Those are the smaller of the fry. Those are the smaller ones. And the big ones are now a few weeks old. Now, they grow very slow. So what I do is, the first mop went in on May 19th, then May 23rd, then the 27th. And so I just keep adding mops until the first fry appears. Now, as you can see, weeks go by and you're waiting because it takes almost 2 weeks before the fry appear. So now here's what happens. The first fry appear, I start using a second tank and I start putting the mops in. So on the 31st, that's just when the fry appeared over here. So you look at the date, you see May 19th to May 31st, it was not quite 2 weeks. So that tells me that after the last mop is put in there, that would be the 27th, about 3 weeks. I'm just going to give it a little plus a week. So 3 weeks from this date, which is about today, which is about this weekend, these mops can come out because there's no more going to hatch. Because basically it's been, since the last mop was put in, it's been 3 weeks. So that's how I do it. So then these can come out, I boil them to get rid of any planaria, bugs, or anything else, and I put them in the next tank. Mayor, welcome, and good to see you online today. Now this one just started hatching. As you know, I put the date that hatched. It was June 13th, so from May 31st to June 13th, that's the 2 weeks for the first mop, but there's not many yet. I still am expecting more to show up. I don't even know if you can see them. I'm looking up at the surface of the water. You're looking at the reflection. And there's, on the right hand side, see by the corner, there's a dark with a little, always with a shadow, is of a little tiny one just kind of putting along there. So it's right over, I don't know if you can see it, right? Just get my finger in the camera. See, right in there, see? That's a baby that just appeared. So this is going to go, and now that the first one is in, on the 13th, the 14th got the next mop. So there's only one mop in here. There's definitely nothing hatched yet, and so by the time I get through the fourth tank, this one, number one, will be completely clear of mops, and I'll just be growing these out. And when I need to, I could probably move those out into another tank or combine them, whichever I want to do. But I can't do it the big ones with the little ones because I don't want to put too big of a fish in with the little guys. So those are the luminatus, and the question was my thoughts on breeding these. So let me, without tripping, let me back up. And you see my mosquito net. I keep mosquitoes sometimes come in here and I have to catch them. Don't like mosquitoes. They're no good. The mosquitoes get in here because it's very humid. Let me set my phone down. This is, see if I can get this. Okay, folks. All right. Give the position. Okay. Rest my arm. I'm holding the camera. Now I realize it's probably a shaky camera. I hope nobody gets sick from it. But basically on the luminatus, and I'll get to your question in a minute, Shady Grady. In the luminatus, we have tried different things, and what we're having great success with now is a good sized group, some 10, 12, maybe 15 And we have probably equal number of males and females. But I've also found that in the past I've had fewer females and more males, that it's a little bit better, because what happens is the females come over to the mop and they start looking in there, but if there's lots of males, they'll see her and start to go into the mop with her and drive her, push her into the mop, as it were, and try to get her to go into the mop so that they can actually spawn with her. That's the behavior. And I'll make a video clip this week. I'll shoot a short and let you see for a minute this activity going on at the mop. It's over at the Grow Out Center, and that's where we've moved them to because of tank space. It just happens to be a good place to have them. So what occurs is not just the fish going into the mop, but it's the males chasing the females so that the females just don't go over there to inspect and eat eggs that they might find. So what happens is they go into the mop and they get chased out, and they get a lot of pressure. So that's why more males than females is probably an advantage. But I can't guarantee that that is the case. I've never seen a fish eat an egg, but how do I know if really that is the issue or not? So we'll see about that. Now, the other thing is that's the male to female ratio. I've had the success, but right now we're having more or less equal males to females, and they're having good success. But what we've done is that we've changed the mop every other day. So we're pulling the mops every other day. And so they don't really get a chance. There's a lot of females, they come over, they're laying a lot of eggs. We pull the mop, get them a fresh mop, and they like look at the mop and they're like, hey, what's that? I'm like, this isn't the mop that was there before. And so immediately after you change the mop, there's 20 fish inspecting the mop. And it's the cutest thing you've ever seen, just inspecting the mop. So they like to do that. And it's kind of interesting, to watch them do this. So this is a species of fish that is born very, very, very small, just like killifish and threadfin rainbows and others. So they're very, very small. So I feed the paramecia, which of course I offer to people who, if you're watching this and you don't know, you can get paramecia culture starter from me. You just go to FishEZ.ca, and at the store you can just order them. I also threw out the store green water if you need green water, paramecia, and vinegar eels. So if you need any of those for your small fish. Now I will start feeding the paramecia first in that tank, and when they're really small I want to have lots of little tiny animals floating around, and then I do the vinegar eels, because the vinegar eels come to the top, and where are the fish? They're at the top. They're just hugging that surface. And so they come to the top, and so I use vinegar eels, and then I also use a low sinking, very finely ground fry food. Let me show you the bottle I use. This is what I use, Sarah growth food. This happens to be the one I use. It's there's others, you don't have to use this brand, but it's a very fine powder, and so I take a 1/32 scoop, the same one you get when you order a fish paramecia culture from me, and I just lightly sprinkle it on the surface. Now this stuff will go like on the surface. The water tension just covers the surface with these little tiny greenish looking particles, and they just float on the surface. They're very difficult, unless you have a lot of vegetation. They're not going to just sink real fast. So I'm giving them this because, now think about it, these are surface fry. These are at the surface, hugging the surface, and for most of their life they're going to hug the surface till they get older, and then they can know how to forage down below. So if they're at the surface like this, what I do is feed surface foods, live foods for the surface. So that means you've got your paramecia, that means you've got your vinegar eels that have to come to the surface to breathe, and then you've got your growth food, so powder that kind of sticks on the surface. By doing that, they seem to do great after a while. And then I get baby brine shrimp going, and then if you have a light on top of the tank like I do, even the baby brine shrimp will go to the surface because they're attracted to the light. So it's very easy to feed the Pseudomugil genus of rainbow fish. However, don't bother with the microworms because the microworms are going to sink to the bottom and they'll just foul the water. They won't really do a lot. So, I hope that's very helpful for the breeding aspect. The water conditions are just tap water, and if it's on the harder side, the better. They are a species of fish that are basically more hard water inclined rather than soft water. So they work out pretty easy with that aspect. What else can I say about those fish? They do great in groups. I find that they don't live particularly long. They don't live like, for years and years and years. But they're easy to breed in a sense. And if you try it, you'll find lots of little babies and you can just replenish your supply. So what I like to do, I don't like to go to the store and buy my tiger barbs because I can just breed them. And I like to breed them in mass so that I have 40, 50 or more because they're fun to watch in a great big group. And it's just a few, there's always issues. The stress from one attacking the other is not good. Good evening, Mexicali Fish Keeper. Mexicali, are you in California? Are you in Mexico, California, near Tijuana? Not far from where I grew up. Okay, so let's see here. There was a question, and that was from Shady Grady. My killifish are surface spawners. Do you have any ideas on how to make a surface spawning mop? Well, okay. What most people do who do killifish is they tie the top of the mop to a cork. And so you just put it in there and the cork just bobs in the water. And that keeps it at the surface. Now, what I do is I have a little loop at the top of my mops. And I just use hold on. I just use one of these. This is a piece of metal, but it's not any metal. This is a thin rod of stainless steel, no rust. So I just will put the mop on here like this, and I'll branch it across the top, and it'll just hold it, and it's just suspended. That's how I'm usually doing it. Now, where do you get these? I think I learned this from Tom at Team Aquatics. I think he's the one. I was watching one of his very instructive, useful videos, and he mentioned how to get these. You go to Amazon.com or .ca if you're in Canada, and basically you look for axles. That's a strange word, but it's the axle, and these are axles made for toy cars, like the wooden car that has two wheels, and for making. So it's part of a little project that you can make, and then you need an axle for your wheels. You have a wheel on both ends, and it's attached to the bottom of your car, and you need a couple of these, right? So I go and I order them from Amazon that way. It takes a while to get them, so I'll go ahead and order them. But they're a very useful tool. I mean, like to have something that's very stiff, doesn't rot, and it's not like I use a lot of the wooden sticks around here. You may have noticed. I see they're not chopsticks, but they're these wooden ones. I get a whole package at the dollar store, and they got they're for shish kebabs, right? They got those skewers. They're called skewers. Yeah, there we go. But they're wooden. When I use these, after a while, they get a lot of mold on them, water mold, and I throw them out. But they're very super cheap and very abundant, and they're just made of like balsa wood or whatever, very light. So they do break easy. You can just snap them. I've used these, but I find that these are better, the metal, because they don't have those issues of clean and so forth. But this is a skewer, and you can just, snap off the pointy end if you don't want to, if you're afraid of gouging yourself or whatever, and you can just have a stick. I use a stick for a variety of things. Another useful tool for your fish room. But these are indispensable for me. I've got quite a few of them sitting around over here in a cup. I was using a lot of them for the mops, and so I would bridge them across. This one doesn't go quite across a 5-gallon tank. It doesn't fit perfectly on a 2.5-gallon tank. This is a 2.5 behind me. Let's see. Yeah, the width is like, this one's going to hang over that much, but I also have some smaller ones. You can order these at different widths, different lengths. So this one, I got a packet of these. These are a lot shorter. So just to give you an idea, let's see how much shorter. It looks like 60% maybe, 60%, something like that. So I don't know. So those are helpful, and they're axles for cars, toy cars. Let's see. I hope that answers your question. If you're talking about how to make a mop that just floats on the surface, Shady Grady, if that's what you're looking for, you might consider tying both ends, because when you make the mop, you take a piece of yarn. I'm going to use this for an example, my camera case. So you take yarn and you wrap it around like this. How many times you want the mop. Then at the top you tie it together, right? At the bottom, usually you cut it off like this, right? What would happen if you tied the bottom and tied the top and put both ends on a cork? The thing would be bobbing at both ends, and it would keep it right along the surface. So, I don't know if that's such a simple answer to, I've never thought about trying to keep the whole mop at the surface, but that would work. Let's see. Let's see, who else has asked questions? Listening from work. Oh, you must be on the West Coast, Mexicali Fish Keeper. You must be on the West Coast then, because it's late here. Now, mops are good, and I like mops. Now, one thing I will explain. When I clean my mops, I don't boil them. I used to put them in boiling water, but the agitation from the boiling water just makes knots out of the yarn, and it's like the mops are like so hard to detangle. So what I do now is I take boiling water, I take my hot pot and I boil the water, and then I just pour it onto the mop and let it sit. Now I feel like, why do I need to boil it? Like, as if I need to sterilize it. I'm just trying to kill any bugs and stuff, right? So let me ask you this: what bugs can survive 211 degree water? Not 212, that's boiling, right? 211 degree water, and let it sit there for 20 minutes. And as it's slowly cooling down, you're going to sit there for 20 minutes in 200 degree plus water. Nothing's going to survive that. So that way it doesn't agitate and mess up my mop. So I don't use boiling water. I just pour boiling water over it and let it sit. You tried that, but it didn't work well. Okay. So you tried the mops, and what is the what was the result? Is it because the two ends came together like this, and then you just created a mop? Well, sounds to me like you need one of these. Take the two corks at one each end, and then skew the cork like that at both ends and pull them apart using this very lightweight balsa. And this is what I would say is a skewer from the dollar store. You get a whole package of 50 of them for a couple of bucks, and keep them apart. So if you keep them apart, I think it would help with the keeping as much of the mop at the surface as you can. Well, that's my suggestion, but got you some ideas. Okay, so that's about the luminatus. Jeff, planaria and hydra, I don't think can survive. But that is a joke, I'm sure, because yes, they seem to always make it through life, don't they? They seem to grow out of nowhere. Oh, I see what your question is. No, you don't need the loose ends. No. No, all you need is the stringiness. You can even use plants. I have some floating plants here with lots of roots, a big root system, and it's what do you call that? What do you call this plant? I have one that's down in a bunch of the roots. Take a look. What is that plant right there? It's caught down below. It's usually floating, but it's got the big kind of yellowish green leaves. I can't think of the name right now. But as you can see in this tank, hornwort floats. If you want something that's thick, start figuring out how to grow hornwort. This little guy, hornwort, and I also have the roots of. Can't think of the name of that plant. There's one back in there. This is a beautiful tank, I tell you. There's just something about it. The angels are looking beautiful. They're growing up nicely, and these folks in this tank are behaving nice. I've got a few odds and ends. Once in a while I'll get a little runt of a black ram or something, and I'll throw it in there. Or I had a couple of extra German blues, and I just throw them in this tank, let them grow out. It's a community tank. And I have cardinals in there to add splash of color. I have tried breeding the cardinals, and I was successful at raising like 2 or 3 fry, and that's all. If I try it again, I'm going to try it again with much more. Thank you, Mayor, for joining the membership. Wow. Now that's a special treat. Thank you so much. Look forward to doing what I can to support all the members here at FishEZ. Now, mind you, I asked the membership tonight, what would you like to watch? And I got 4 different people to respond, each one with 4 different subjects. So it gave me ideas, though, at least. Also, you see there's some red lizards right here. See the red lizards? They're kind of growing out in here too, but these have been, there's one eating the leaf right in the center of your screen, chewing around, or they're just kind of like always sucking around. They don't really eat algae. They're just looking for maybe the little microfauna that's out there. But these have been slated to give to the very individual who gave me the Discus. Just so you know, we have some great news here. This is a new pair of Discus. I think a very, very nice pair. They're skittish. I turned the light on earlier, but new pair of turquoise Discus. They're going over to the Grow Out Center tomorrow. They've spawned twice. Of course, unsuccessfully because they were in the community tank. But I pulled them out on the second spawn, and, well, what gorgeous finnage. I really love their fins. But these are from the blue turquoise that was given to me. And so this is the first pair that's formed out of the progeny. And so we're looking forward to more pairs being formed. This pair came from the main tank over here. So I had like 16 of them. And so what happened is, basically, these all from the same blue turquoise pair, and that is the first pair to come out of here. Now I got, how many's left here? 2, 4, 6, it's like 8. It's like 8 of them. So I have 8 more to just let sit and let them bond up in pairs, and as they form pairs, I'll just pull them out. Then we take them over to the breeding section. The other ones, the ones that came from, um, these are like red Alenker. They're more in the wild type, or you can see I've got a few that are quite attractive. One of them in here is just too small, won't end up being a good breeder. But there's a few in here that are quite attractive, very nice looking. And as they get bigger, they're showing more and more of their color. Like for example, here's one of their siblings that's grown a little faster than the rest. And this one, wow, this one just pops. And this one, I have yet to see this one ever bring down its fins. This one's showing its fins all the time. But a healthy fish all the way around. What a gorgeous fish. When I brought it over here first, I didn't bring it over with the other ones, and so it was like later, and I put it with a community tank, and it wouldn't eat. So for 3 weeks or more, it wouldn't touch the food, and everybody else was kind of like being the bully, right? So I pulled it out and put it in the 40 gallon. So what I'm going to do now is this weekend, I think I'm going to take this one, all the red ones out, and we're going to put them in with this one. And so all at once, and boom, she's been in here, or he's been in here for quite some time. And so this one is not going to be an issue. And then we'll see if it continues to eat. So that would be the best way to get them going. And then the rest of these will be the turquoise. As you can see, the turquoise are getting more and more of their blue turquoise on them as they get older and get more size on them. But these are the best of the best, and I'm looking forward. And look at this one. Look at this one. It's got, I noticed, started growing out of the tails and the fins, these little pointy it's like, for example, this one, maybe this is a female, maybe this is a male, because it has the pointy fins. Some of them are starting to get pointy fins. Don't know if that is, but the pair we just looked at a minute ago that already formed, both of them have pointy fins, so I don't think that can be it. Yep, gotta find some good homes for these guys too. These guys are just, the Lucipinnis are just gorgeous. And they get along so well with the Discus. I don't know why anybody would turn them down. Look at the color of those things. These Discus are not on RO water, they're just on tap water. But when they go to the breeding tanks, we'll use RO to try to bring down the pH so that the eggs hatch. Right now, if they just, like in this tank, bred in the wall, you know, even if they weren't eaten by the others, they probably wouldn't hatch because of the hardness of the water. So that's the reason. Quick rundown. This is a tank that is going to the grow out center tomorrow. This is a mixed bag of angels. These are staying. These are not big enough. These are red koi angels, but a very, very large, sizable group of them growing up, and they'll need another week or so from 2LB6. 2LB6 and 2LB7 are two of our best ones. I also have some, looks like these are platinums. Yeah, L184. Yeah, this is another large batch of platinums, just like these. I forgot to write down what batch these were from. I don't even know which parents they're from. I forgot. That was very idiotic of me. But you know, I might be able to go back in some old videos and things and probably figure it out, because I know the batch I took them from and what tank they were in. So, and here's 2LB6. This is the same as the red koi we saw a minute ago. This is a later batch from May 28th. And another large group. They do produce a lot. Now, looking at some of the weekly news, we have black rams here that have started free swimming, and so we'll see if we can get some decent out of them. angels that just started free swimming, and we have German blues that have hatched but not free swimming yet. Now see, what's happened is the eggs that did not hatch are fungusing. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to show you what I do when this happens, because they've all hatched. They're not attached to that thing. I need to get it out of there. So I'm just going to remove the lid, and I'm going to try to do this one-handed. Let's see if I can do it one-handed without going crazy. And what we're going to do is I'm going to reach down in there, and obviously there's fry on the plate, right? But because they're hatched, I'm just going to gently shake it. I'm just kind of shaking it like back and forth, kind of vibrating it. You'll see how all the fry come to the bottom. And just gently pull it out. Until I see that, hold on a second, okay. Gently, so that I see that I can see if I got them all. Did I get any fry? Looks like, you know, I don't have my lights on. Let me see. I'm gonna turn the lights on. I was working without brights. Okay, sometimes I forget these things. Now looking at that, I don't see. I see that little dark thing is actually not a fry. It looks to me like just a piece of. No, I don't see any fry stuck on here. Nope, gone. Okay, so that's how I got it out. So I just take it out, but I've shaken it off, and you can see now all the fry that are on the floor of this tubby. And now I can just put this back on. And we got air again. Simple. The black rams here are not doing so great for one reason. They seem to have developed a bladder issue, and I don't know exactly the cause, but you'll notice that both FA1 and FA2 are from different spawns, only 7 days apart, and yet they have difficulty swimming, especially after they eat. But I'm anxious to see if they'll grow out of it, see if they'll get over it. Sometimes they don't, and sometimes they do. Down below, there is 2 more large breeder boxes. This is, these are going to be red koi, and these are going to be red koi also. Yeah. And we're catching dad. If you see the dad, he's right here, he's outside of his home. He usually lives right here, but I caught him outside. There's no females in the tank at the moment, so tonight I'll put in, or tomorrow, one or the other, I'll put in 2 females and see if I can get one of them to go. And they usually go, but he's just giving them a rest because he's been taking care of fry for so long. Okay, so I didn't put this back on, did I? After we were looking at the synodontis, Lucipinnis. Okay, there we go. Done. Getting back to the subject at hand, if there's no questions on what we've been doing up to this point, let me see if there's been anything. Oh, Red Laser joined us. Thank you for joining us tonight. And basically, let's talk a moment about the Lucipinnis just to finish up our discussion. I think it would be really nice if I did a complete Lucipinnis. I would like to do a complete Lucipinnis discussion or video just on that, and probably what I'll do is I'll put it out there for the members, video, and then that will be like a premiere, and then after that, what will happen is maybe eventually it'll be open to the public, so everybody can enjoy the video, but sometime at least the members get a first shot. But these, and let me see, in particular, these I want to say Lucipinnis. I keep them in the dark. I just looked at them. This tank, oh, gotta turn the camera around. In this particular case, these, you can see, well, the reflection is so bad. I'll turn the light on so you can see, but this tank is usually in the dark. Now, since I've had this tank, it's been set up. Now, if you really want to know what will make the Lucipinnis happy, I can tell you. Put them in a tank and leave them alone. Don't make a lot of changes. They love their tank. Give them a lot of places to swim about and hide. And as you can see, they go in and out. It's best to have a good number of, I got 10 of them to begin with. And I think I still, after 3 years, still have 10 of them. And the fish, the big ones, there's some big mamas in here that definitely are the egg carriers, and the little guys are the males. Yeah, they're coming out. They think they're getting fed, I think. They don't usually come out so, but they do when it comes time for food. Oh, they are out and about. Voracious eaters. I mean, we should do that, right? What would happen if we just threw some... What would happen if we just decided to put some food in there? What food should we give them? They will eat almost anything. I mean, I don't feed them Daphnia, but let me just feed them some flakes. I do have some flakes. I grabbed the flakes. Okay. I wasn't expecting to do this. Let me see. Oh, I know what to feed them. Better than the flakes, I do have some pellets. These are some pellets. It didn't come in this can. I'm just using this can. But these happen to be... they'll eat the red. They'll eat the red granules. Any granule, they'll eat that. I think it's best for them. But I put this shaker here, and I'll just sprinkle some in. Let's just see what happens when they sense the food. Their little whiskers are like antennae, right? As soon as they realize there's food in the water, they start going crazy. Look at the big one. You see the big one is... Oh, she goes to the surface. See how she comes up and starts eating? So fun to watch. Now they're all coming out. They're just like Hoover vacuums. Boom, boom, boom. They will have that cleaned up. They're very attractive catfish. And now we got 2 of them at the top. They've learned to do that. They'll even eat out of my hand if they knew it was food. They're very shy, darty, and the key is not to change their water in large amounts. If you're going to change their water, change like 10%, but not more. And the water can get hard and can get very high in TDS. They love it. They're from Lake Tanganyika, and so it's not a matter of... They will die if the pH crashes. That is it for sure. And for that reason, there are some tanks that we always put a few Lucies in if we're worried about the pH crashing, because it's a telltale sign. If something happens to a Lucy and he's not acting right, he starts jerking around, and we immediately suspect that there's a pH problem. The good canaries in a coal mine. But basically, you can see that, oh, it's all gone. The food is gone, isn't it? Off the bottom, at least. There's some floating around. But there you have it. Why it's so fun to have Lucies. They will breed inside the cave. You see the reflection of the cave? There's a hole on the other side. We're looking at the back side. And then the bottom is just one of these. So it's a dish. I use the marbles only to hold up the grill. This is a, what do you call this? This grill is a, made out of fiberglass. It's used for barbecuing. And you just cut it with scissors. Zoop, and fits perfect and holds up. And then my pot sits on top of that. That's all you need to do. And then check it regularly, because the eggs will hatch in 24 hours. So once they lay the eggs, you'll get these little, they look like a little glass bead with a tail wiggling around, and that's their wigglers. And then they're eating and so forth so quickly. Well, male-female ratio, I think that was a question. Well, you need the males to drive the females. You only need a couple females. As you can see, they can produce a lot of eggs, thousands really in a clutch, but I only catch what they lay in here. I've caught them spawning in the tubes, but nothing in the tubes gets collected, right? Only that which goes into the trap gets collected. So I may pull 200-300 eggs at one time. I've had spawns that big, but it just turns out that that's only a portion of the total, because when they start in their spawning mode, they'll be spawning all over the place. So it's pretty nifty. Here are some facts about the Lucipinnis that you should know. They will not breed until they're about, I would give them a good 2 years old. They just need that time of maturity. Oh, look at these. I'm trying to dig. There's some food down in there. You'll have to dig it out. He's going to try to dig it out. Oh, he will too. It's just a matter of time. So they need to be mature. Mine, I just kept. They were very small. Mine were like they were not even a half an inch long when I got them. They were just tiny little babies. And I was surprised when I got them from the wet spot in Oregon. And let me show you about the size they were. They were like these. I would say these are the size that I got them as. I was surprised, but I guess, you know, they ship good. They ship well in this size, and it just took a while to grow them out. So I was very patient. They like to have a dark place to go to, so that's why I have the tubes, and that's why in this breeder box I have the cave. They just congregate in there, and actually when you pick up the cave and pour out the Lucies inside, they just pour out in mass. There's just a billion of them in here. So that's something really to note. It's easy to catch. You just put your net under the cave, pick up the cave, and they all fall into the net. If you want to catch them that way. Once in a while they've been getting over into this tank because of maybe an overflow issue, and then I just siphon them back out. In fact, there's one over there. See on the left-hand side? After a while, with Lucy's all over the fish room, you'll come to find that I have them in tanks I didn't even know they were there. They keep popping up. It's like they become like mice or rats in your fish room. They just keep appearing out of nowhere, and you say, how did he get in there? How did that one? It happens to me with German blues too. They just appear out of nowhere. So that's the Lucipinnis. I hope that was very helpful. I think that it would be a good idea to have more males than females. So when you're picking out fish, don't just pick out the big ones. That's the mistake most people make. They say, oh yeah, I pick out the big ones, they're the healthiest. No, they're just the females. You know, there's no other indicator, there's no other way except for the big, full-bodied female. And they will probably grow faster, the females, because they're getting bigger at for the same time period. So when you pick out a bunch of them, get 6 small ones, and get 6 bigger sized ones. And then you're probably going to end up with a good number of mixture. I have another colony which I've had been growing out for the last year. It's over here, you know. There's 10, no, I think there's 12 or 11. It might be 11. These guys are breeder age, but I have not put a trap in there. I have not tried to breed these. They go from that side to this side. I have 2 of these caves for them, and they just hang out in the caves. You can see them in there. If Mr. Discus would get out of the way. See them in there? They love to be in that dark cave. But basically, I don't need to be breeding more. But these came from 2 other sources, not from the other ones I have. So I have actually Lucipinnis from 3 different sources. And the ones in this colony are a mixture of 50-50 from 2 different sources. And so just to get me some good diversity in the genetics. So, but it's important to get, I would say, sufficient number of males, because it's the males that are going to do the driving of the females. Okay, set the phone down so you can not get so dizzy. Sorry about that. That's the Lucipinnis. Again, when they're fry, water quality is super important, and I say that in kind of jest, because it's not the same water quality as you would with Discus. Now with Discus, you're changing the water constantly. The temperature in this room has risen almost 2 degrees, and it was kind of nice. I didn't have to derobe today, but now it's starting to heat up. Come on. It does it every time, I guess because the door is closed to the fish room. But let me explain about water quality. The water quality for the Discus, they need lots of clean fresh water. And so as you're growing them, you can constantly changing the water. And sometimes you can do 50, 75% water changes, and the Discus feels so great, you feel happy. If you want to shock your Lucipinnis, change 30% of your water, and they could go into shock. So when you get new Lucipinnis, always drip water, acclimate them, or very slowly take little bits of water, and so they become used to the pH. The pH has to match, temperature has to match. It's really best in that way. Now, when you're doing water changes, what I mean by water quality is that in this case with the Lucipinnis, you don't want to change large percentage of water. They need to have stable water. Now, what is stable water? What I have found is if you take water from the tap and you put in your dechlorinator and you mix it up and you wait 10-15 minutes, it's relatively safe to use that water on your fish, right? Everybody does that, you know. They take a 5-gallon bucket of water and they do the dechlorinator, and then they let it aerate, and then the temperature's the same, and then they change their 10-gallon, 15-gallon tank with good chunk of water, and everybody's happy. The fish feel good. The Lucipinnis have the ability to know that that's fresh water. And in fact, I don't know what it is, but they will start acting super crazy. They will start jerking up and around, and like as if they've got something attacking their gills, and they're trying to shake it off. It's just like that, they're just trying to shake it off. Well, what it is, even though you're using dechlorinator, and it's not enough that the chlorine which attaches itself to the gills of a fish and causes them to suffocate. That's how chlorine actually kills. It doesn't kill by any other method. It asphyxiates your fish because it prevents the gills from absorbing the oxygen out of the water. So that's why you'll see them when there is a chlorine problem, you see them start to go to the surface and breathe at the top. Not enough oxygen. And that's why aeration, which will release the chlorine from the water molecules, it will actually be a method to get rid of the chlorine. Now, in the case of the Lucipinnis, they can detect the most minute particle of chlorine and they will react violently when they sense it. I don't know if it's just because they have sensitive gills or what. But the same water, if I let it sit or aerate in my tank up here and just let the water sit for 24 hours or at least a day or at least 12 hours, if it's aerated for 12 hours and all of the chlorine is pretty much had a chance to escape, I can change larger volumes of my tank and the Lucipinnis will be just fine with it. Same water. But if it's fresh out of the tap, they'll let you know. They say that's too fresh. So that's something to be aware of when you have Lucipinnis. Now, one of you members, I think it was Ron, I think you sent me a message earlier, and yeah, it was Ron. He says, let's talk about the Lucipinnis, the breeding and the cycles. Now, Greg Sage has some great videos out there, and I've been in communication with Greg this week, and I talk to him all the time. Greg Sage has some great videos on breeding the Lucipinnis, but I will be honest. Just let me get a drink of water. It was Greg Sage that really got me involved in the Lucipinnis, and I wanted to get some from Greg. And it turns out that if Greg shipped them to me, it was going to cost quite a bit of money. But I was ordering some fish from the wet spot, and I could throw in 10 little Lucies for cheap, and the shipping was virtually nil because I was putting in an order with them, you see, and they were going to send a big box, right? So on that event, for that occasion, it turns out that I didn't get the Lucipinnis from Greg Sage, although he does have some really good quality Lucies. Drinking bubbly tonight. However, if you watch his videos and you follow his instructions, he has spent so much time because he's had so much experience and he's lost many a batch in learning the process until he finally got a routine and finally got a system that works. And he uses 3 tanks, basically 3 tanks. One acts as a sump and water is pumped up into the upper tanks and then it trickles. He keeps the babies in the same water system as the parents. Well, I was so afraid that I was definitely never going to be able to raise Lucy's after watching these videos because I thought, oh no, wow. Thank you, Sandy, for posting on Greg. Yeah, I thought for sure that I was never going to happen. But it turns out that my own methods, which are quite different than his, has produced for me more Lucy's than we can sell. So I always have a good plentiful supply, and they're always available. If anybody wants some, we have some. They're just there, right? And it's because, and I've lost batches too. I've let the water in the jar get bad, but they are the one fish that I can leave in those jars longer than any other fish, because changing their water doesn't seem to be as much of a benefit for them as it does to others. So in other words, if I change their water, I just do a little portion at a time, and they seem to be fine with it, and they don't die. I don't know if it's because they're immune to ammonia or what, but it's, for some reason, I haven't found any ammonia buildup with them as I do with other fish when I start putting in the baby brine shrimp. But they do need their water changed, but smaller amounts. And then I'll eventually move them into a breeder box, and then they go into a tank. And there's some interesting behavior over at the grow out house. We have this. We're going to try to get it on camera. But there is an interesting phenomenon. I don't know if you've seen it on Aqua Malik's channel, but there is this ornament that we have in the Lucy tank that's like a rock on top of a rock. So there's right between them is this crevice, and the fish go around and around and around. And pretty soon another fish joins them. Now there's 3, and there's 4 or 5, and there's a group of them just swarming, going around in a circle. It's like a merry-go-round, merry-go-round, just over and over. And they do it for hours. And it is one of the most interesting sights to see. It's so active. It reminds me of a hamster in his hamster wheel. And so the wheel is like this, right? You know, he just, all night long, he's just running. And that's what they're doing. They're swimming, but they're staying within the crevice of the rock. And so they're just like swimming in the crevice. It is an interesting phenomenon. I'll get some footage of that and post it. It is quite amazing. So there's a lot of things that the Lucys do that just make it so interesting. Easy to feed, easy to care for. I wouldn't put them in with small fish. Tiny fish, they might view that as maybe food. They do have big mouths, but they don't necessarily eat. I've had one Lucy grow up with the parents all on its own. Somehow it escaped the mouth of all those fish, stayed in the crevice, I don't know, and somehow got food, I don't know. But I did have one grow up in the tank with the parents, and I don't know if it's still in there, if it grew up with them, is now part of the group or not. I just don't know, because I don't put tags on them. So I can't ascertain that. But that's the Lucys, and I can't speak well enough about them. I think I will always enjoy them, and I think I'll always have them in my aquarium, my fish room. I don't think I can get tired of them. I think that's basically it, because I love active fish. I love schooling fish, and these guys love to run around in a pack. And so don't get 1, don't get 2, at least get 10. And if you can't afford that, let me know. Maybe we can work something out, because I would love to let you enjoy having some Lucys as well, if you really want them for your fish tanks. So if you have fish on the more robust side, that is, if you have fish that they can get along with, I'm saying I've kept barbs with them. I've kept sometimes. Right now I don't have any other fish with them, but I've kept different fish in with them, and they seem to get along just fine. As you can see in my big 90-gallon, that's ideal. They stay in the rocks, and the big fish like the angels and the discus and the Lucipinnis, that they do just fine. But they need the hard water, and I would only put them with discus if you're putting your discus in the hard water. If you're going to bring down you're going to use RO water with your discus, then it's time to get the Lucys out. So in this case, that's just a grow out tank, and so discus do fine in hard water if they've been acclimatized to it and they're just growing out, you know. But when it comes time to breeding, it's a different story. So that's the subject for Ron. I hope that was helpful to you. And Sandy had asked, I think it was Sandy. Yeah. You had asked about your angels. What do you do with your angelfish eating the eggs? Well, I'm going to share something with you that may be at least one idea. I don't know if this will work. I don't know your circumstances, but if they tend to eat them, first of all, I'm assuming that they're in a tank by themselves. They don't have other fish in there. Because if they see other fish or have other fish with them, they will tend to try to protect their babies. And in the end, sometimes fish will eat their own babies before they'll let other fish eat them. So if they know that the other fish are going to eat them, they will stop that, right? Now, my thought was this. We have a pair of Discus. It's turquoise pair actually. And I've raised a lot of turquoise babies out of this pair. But when it was given me, they said, my friend gave it to me and said, yeah, these turquoise, we've bred them a few times, but we have not been successful. And I didn't know what they meant by that. So I started raising fry, and the fry would, one batch would be great, and they had some babies, and then the next batch was great. Then they started eating the eggs. Then they started eating the fry. And so it was like they kept laying eggs, and I would lose them and lose them and lose them and lose them. And then finally, every fifth time or every fifth attempt thereabouts, they would be successful. They would raise their babies. They wouldn't eat them, and everything would be fine. And I would say, now what's different? What's the deal? I don't know what was different. I just kept at it, let them keep doing it, right? Until finally they weren't doing. They were just giving me troubles. I realized that they were bickering among themselves, and so when the parents seemed to be fighting, and as cichlids do, locking lips and doing all the cichlid kind of activity, that's when I said, well, there's something wrong here, and it's probably due to that behavior. So sure enough, I started trying different things, and I would pull out the male, let the female be at the eggs, because the male was just beating the tar out of the female, and she'd be just keep trying to get back. Hi, Motor City Aquatics. Thank you for joining us tonight. And what would happen is, in the end, I didn't know which fish was actually doing the eating, but we tried pulling out the male. We left the female in with the babies, and she ate all the babies. Now we know who ate them. There's just no question. The next time, we pulled the female out. And right now, the male has a ton of babies on his sides. So he doesn't eat them. But she does. So my point is, see if you can figure out who's eating them. The next time you have eggs, pull one of them out. And you can tell the difference in the male and female, right? You should be able to know which one's a male and female. It's very easy because angelfish are easy to tell apart. There's always some little telltale sign that you can determine. So then if she's the one laying the eggs, she's the female, right? So pull out the female or pull out the male. Put them in another tank and see what happens, because you don't need both in order to raise the babies. If they all disappear or they start disappearing, well, you can't put the other one back in. They won't recognize that those are the babies necessarily. It's not a good thing. But if you lose the batch, there's always next time. So then put the pair back together, and in the next batch, pull the other sex and see if the same thing happens. Now, if it happens twice, if it's happening every time, and it does it with each one individually, then there's only one solution, and it's artificial raising of the fry. You will not be able to ever teach them not to eat the fry. Not from what I can see. If any of you have a better idea of how to teach an angelfish not to eat the fry when they're in the habit of doing so, let me know. I put right in here, I put a pair of green platinum tiger barbs. So I'm anxious to see if they bred. I think they might have, because the female did look slimmer. So it was just like the day before yesterday. So it's going to take another 3 or 4 days before I see any fry whatsoever. I did put some Daphnia in here. I don't see the Daphnia. They may not have survived. Now the kind of Daphnia I put in here is not the big magna, but it's a smaller Daphnia. I don't see it, but Daphnia can just live in the water column and be fine. I have 2 tanks, so tonight or tomorrow or this Sunday at the latest, I'm going to set these up, and I'm going to put 2 pair of fish on, just like this one, on the grill. We're going to put them on the grill, and we're going to see if we can get some more spawns. I'm anxious to get these tanks working again. I was raising some black rams, if you remember, last couple of weeks, but they're now at the grow center. They're gotten big enough, so they're over there. So we'll get those going. Now, last thing for tonight was what I promised you, is the Daphnia. Here's the Daphnia magna, and they're bigger. Now those little tiny spots you see, that's not Daphnia, that's called seed shrimp. It's one of those things I just can't get rid of. It seems to grow alongside the Daphnia. But this Daphnia is growing in leaps and bounds in our outdoor tanks over at the grow out center. And they're really good for that. Now I got these. This is from a club member, the Peel Regional Aquarium Club. And that's why you should join aquarium clubs. You have friends that have the goodies. You can get them from them. Let me see if I can pull this glass away. You can see what I got from one of our members. You see that? See if you can get my light over there. Try to find the right angle so the glare isn't impossible, but this Daphnia stays small. I'm too close. Is that what the issue is? I'm too close, but you can see maybe in the greener areas, it's a tiny Daphnia up at the surface. Now, up under the light, right there at where the light is at the surface. There we go. There you go. You can see them better. See those specks? They're really growing. This was given to me by a club member who says they are Moina Daphnia. I have 2 of these jars, and I just keep them split because obviously you don't want to have all your eggs in one basket. If it crashes, you lose them all, right? There we go. There's probably a better shot of how they swim. They're a little jerky. They're very small, and they swim very fast through the water. I'm feeding them green water for food. Other people, I saw a video earlier this week. I was watching it, and they were explaining how to give them. They used a special formula. It didn't involve any green water, and it worked well for them, I guess. I didn't try it, but I should, to see if it's even an improvement, or shall we say a supplement, for when green water is not doing so great. But my green water has been really growing great, so. But tonight I need to replace this with fresh green water, and also the size of the tub makes a big difference. So one of these I'm going to put in a 5-gallon. I have one down here. This one on the left has magna in it. That's the magna. And this one has some magna, so I'm going to drain this one out. I'm going to take all of the living organisms in here. I'll just filter it out and then put them in with these guys, and then clean out this tank, and we'll fill it full of green water, and we'll put the Moina in this one, and we'll see if we can get a bigger volume of water and see if they do faster multiplication. Because the reason is Richard Reynolds says he has outside in Southwest Florida, the water is 90 and it's still thriving. Yeah. So, yeah, they do. My Daphnia, I have noticed they do well in colder and warmer water, so long as it's not a big drastic change all at once. So, as the day gets hot and then it cools off for the evening time, there might be a temperature change, but throughout the day, it's such a subtle change, so slow, that it doesn't seem to bother them. And that's why it's good. Now, these are getting yellow. So it's time to feed them. I got to get some green water in there. So I will just do that. I don't know how to do this without how I can show you. I'll show you how. Let me see if I can show you how to do this. How I would feed them, okay? This is what I would do. I'm going to take the camera. I'm going to put it right here and position it so you can see what I'm doing. There we go. And I'll try to stay out of the way. Now, obviously it's not that easy, but I'm going to take one of these tubbies. And so here's the tubby that we're just looking at. It has the Moina Daphnia in it. It's also got a lot of crud at the bottom, but that's okay. And then I take an empty one of these. And so I'm going to fill up the empty one with green water. Just fill it up with green water. And then we'll just filter them out and put them in the green water. Now, of course, I just told you the temperature difference should be about the same, but this little bit here is probably about the same as the green water I have. In fact, I'll show you the green water. Here's the green water right here. So what I'm going to do is, this is the green water in this tank, right? And I'm going to just take my container here. And I'm going to take out, now I have, each tubby is this much water, so I have enough for, it looks like 3.5 tubbies. But I got to keep some always for the regrowth. So I'm going to use this. This is, and I'm going to use this. I'm going to just, I like to filter the green water so that if there's any bugs or anything, I always put in clean green water. But in this case, I'm just feeding. I'm not using the green water for reestablishing my new. If I was going to reestablish the tank, I would use the filter and make sure I get, whatever I put back in the tank is just pure green water, nothing else. But right now, I just want to get some green water, so I just siphon it out. So then I just say, Bob, your uncle, and I'm done. There's a tubby of green water. And I'm ready to put the Daphnia in there. So let me turn the camera around. Okay. You can see what's going on over there. And I'm going to take my filter. I do it in the sink. I take this batch here, pour out the water. In this case, I'm just going to pour everything out because I'm going to replace all the water. I usually just do half. And so what I'm left with is all the Daphnia in here. Then I take this and put the Daphnia inside. Okay. And then forget about them again. Now, if I was going to harvest from them, when I was pouring just now, I would harvest some, like half of the container. I'd pour it out through a filter and then feed that to the fish, and then that would reduce the numbers if it was overpopulated. But right now I'm building up my numbers, so that's it. And I just put this over here under the light. show you the difference. Now you're going to see the difference. The difference is night and day. So you can see the one on the left is what it looked like before we fed him. The one on the right is the green water, and you can see the difference. Now this green water will turn like this after a few days, especially if the population grows. So this one I'll use for the 5-gallon tank. Later tonight I'm going to clean that out. But these guys need to be fed too. You can see that. I'll put take out a tubby of water, filter it, grab the food, live food, either feed it to the fish or just keep it. And then I will use what green water I have left here, and I will bring it down. One tubby I will set aside for putting back into the tank. I'll take a filtered tubby of water, and that's all I use. And I will use liquid. This is liquid fertilizer. I use this one, Easy Green, but you can use any of them, I guess. It's a plant fertilizer, and I squirt it in here. So you got to feed your green water. So it's like any plant. It needs fertilization. It needs nutrition. It needs nutrition, and so I give it the liquid stuff. Yes, Master Aquatics, Eduardo. So that's how I handle the green water, and it's pretty nice, easy way to get live food. And I use the Daphnia only in the jars because I only grow a minimum amount, and I use it for my breeders. So when we put the barbs in these tanks tonight or tomorrow, I will throw in Daphnia in here with them. Now this is what's nice about it. If you throw in microworms, it goes underneath the grill and dies. If you throw in flakes, it drops to the bottom, goes under the grill, and spoils. If you throw in any food, except for Daphnia, Daphnia is the only one that will live and thrive in your fresh, clean water. Not clean, but I mean fresh water. And it will stay there for days. So every time it goes down below, it's just going to come up, and then the fish will eat it. So the fish will actually eventually get it, but they can just slowly feed off the Daphnia. And if it goes down below the grill, it will eventually come back up. It's just swimming around the tank. So that's why I like Daphnia for conditioning the breeders. Okay, I hope that was helpful. This is the dad that we put, this green tiger barb there. The lighting makes him look a little bluish, but he's really green. And there goes my light, so it must be time. Alexa, fish room on. Okay. So that's our sign for it's obviously time to call it a night. It's been interesting subjects to cover, things that you want to talk about. I'm glad that there was some questions out there for you folks, or from you folks. Get the light out of there. And I so dearly thank everyone, even some of the new folks here, Outside In Aquatics. Richard Reynolds is with us, and Master Aquatics, Eduardo. Coral Works, you joined us. Blackworms will live in your aquarium, yes. They aren't as good for fry, that's true. That's why I don't use the grindle worms for fry. And blackworms will actually live in the water, in the tanks. And I did find a source for some live blackworms here in Ontario, but I haven't picked them up yet. I'm anxious to see if I can get that to give that a go. Yeah, and I want to grow the Moina. I want to grow in large quantities, so that's why we're going to be doing it outside in a tank. Right now there is a I think it's like a 35-gallon tank it had a lot of green water in it. It turned completely green. You couldn't see anything. So we poured one tubby of the Moina in it already, and we're anxious to see if they come up and thrive in that water. But I really want to get the one of the tanks outside in the sunlight that will really produce the green water, and see if that will allow the Daphnia to just go crazy. I've seen many people who, on certain videos down in Florida, where they've taken their scoop and they get these huge amounts of Moina, and that's all they can grow. They can't even grow the magnet. For some reason they say, well, the magnet doesn't grow well here, but boy, the other Moina sure does. So it kind of tells me that there might be some environmental conditions that make one or the other better than the other, depending on where you're at. Okay. Thank you all for joining. I did want to mention that our next speaker, which is our Peel Regional Aquarium Club, will be having a meeting on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And the speaker will be Josh Cunningham. As you know, he is part of Cunningham Tropics. He's got a successful business and based out of his fish room. And so he's going to be speaking to us about his trips down to Florida and the Florida fish farms. So if you've heard that presentation, great. Then if you haven't, you're free to join us at Peel Regional. We're going to be connecting with Zoom as well for those who would like to join. And it's, you know, we have a membership that's for online membership, people who join us with the Zoom. Very, very cheap. We only charge $10 a year. You know, it's virtually nothing. So I encourage you to join and just to hang out with Josh Cunningham for an hour or so. It's going to be at 7 o'clock on Wednesday. And the website that you can learn more about it will be posting information after, well, as soon as I get to it later tonight. It's peelaquariumclub.ca. No, .org. What am I saying? Peel, P-E-E-L, regional, no, it's Peel Regional Aquarium Club, but the website is just simply peelaquariumclub.org. I hope I said that right. Sometimes I get mixed up because of the different forms of the word. Peel Regional Aquarium Club is the name, but you know the website is different URL, different domain. But I hope that was helpful to all of you. And of course, if you are interested in picking up with us next Friday, probably you found it. Thank you. It is .org. Thank you, Jeff. Yeah, I maintain that website as well. Well, yeah, there's so much to do around here, and I got to get to it. So thank you so much. It's been an hour and a half, and I do appreciate all the support. Thank you, you members and you supporting members, and everything that's been done for us. And it has been some great people. Benjamin Peters was here, first one to join tonight, and he's still with us saying thank you. And so that means you spent 90 minutes spending it with FishEZ, and I know that couldn't have been easy, but thank you anyway. Appreciate it so much. And above all, friends, please enjoy your fish. Keep doing what you enjoy doing, but most of all, keep it real.